Keisha, and David as they review with your host Sylbourne Sidio the top news of the week. Tune in, and I'll see you there at 9 p.m. Thank you.
And if that's the case, it means that we are influencing people, young minds, based on what we say and what we believe. And that means that that inevitably, and this is what's happening, is there an outlet for regulating this platform, social media stuff.
But at the same time, if you just have one talk show, we're talking about this talk show where a host has a platform which is just directed to falsehood, and that is a platform for a show that's listened to by people within a particular community, then I think that's where the distinction is made. It's not just one voice here, it's a voice on behalf.
Like that particular in London, because London is currently tier 2, my understanding, and of course there is pressure for it not to be tier 3, and a lot of the other solutions or advice has been coming out as to what the government can potentially do.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and good afternoon. Today is the 17th of December, 2020. I want to thank you so much for joining me on the In Review, where we review some of the top news of the week. We will not get into all the top news. We just touch on some of the news that our viewers have put forward, and also the residents panel, which is David, Keima, and Keisha. And as we look forward to the end of the year, and today of course will be our final show of in review for this year, and as we look forward to 2021, we believe 2021 will be an exciting year. Now, many people had said 2020 would have been an exciting year. Well, 2020 is an exciting year, whether it be negative or positive, but we have to move forward to the next level. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring in my guest this evening, and let's get it running. Let's get it rolling. Keima, Keisha, David, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing today?
Oh, good. Thank you, Sylbourne. Thanks, Keima and Keisha, for joining. How are things? How are you guys?
You're all doing well.
Christmas spirits? All happy, ready for Christmas?
Yes.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
You're ready for Christmas?
No.
Well, I've got the Christmas tree up. It's been up for a long time now, and I should have all my shopping delivered by Amazon, of course. Wow. This weekend, and the mother is going to be doing the turkey. It will be very eventful Christmas and very different from the last couple of years, because where we all gather together. It will be just my house all alone this time around, so it'll be a much quieter Christmas than usual. But I think, given the guidelines, it's probably best that we do that.
Well, one of the things that the Prime Minister said at the end of his the briefing yesterday, said, "Have a merry little Christmas." Have a merry little Christmas. Now, I don't know if people are going to follow that. Are you going to follow that, Keisha? A merry little Christmas.
Whatever I choose to do, I don't think I need to. Oh, I should actually say it publicly. So I get myself recovered anyway. All I know, as far as I'm concerned, I have been one of the good guys. Okay, up to this point. I followed all the rules. I've stayed locked in, doing what I've got to do to comply with the rules and regulation. And all I've been asking boys for is to give me the leeway, give me some time to celebrate Christmas. And thus far, it doesn't seem as if it's quite forthcoming. We am hearing all this lockdown from London turning to, from tier 2 to tier 3, and I'm just been looking forward for Christmas for all these months. And I'm not really optimistic anymore. So whatever I choose to do, unfortunately, I cannot declare at the moment.
And David?
Wow. I was going to say the lockdown queen is not locking down, but you're being tight-lipped, which is fine. I think it's the right thing to do. I think in regards to what's happening for me, I'll be having my mum around. That'll be my bubble. and we'll celebrate Christmas together. And you know, I think we just got to be sensible about things. Approach this in looking after the loved ones. So we've got to remember that people need people. That's the first thing. You know, we should celebrate people that are around us. We need to look after people who are vulnerable. I think that's the other thing that's gone unspoken today. From the public point of view, we need to make sure we're looking after the public. So the government could have led a little bit more on that as well, because there are vulnerable adults out there. There are vulnerable people out there. Christmas has always been a lonely time for some folks, so you need to make sure that they're looked after as well. So, but for me personally, as you asked the question, I will be celebrating with close ones, and my mum will be around for sure.
I must say for myself, it has always been a tradition being an immigrant in this country, and my wife also an immigrant, and the children being born into the world as immigrants within the British system. We always be by ourselves, you know what I mean? So it makes no difference to us because our immediate families are back home in Jamaica. So it's normal for us where we just chill with each other.
I think the one thing I will miss is Christmas Mass. That's the one thing I'm going to really miss, because of late we would have gone to Leeds for that, but not going to go this year, obviously. But that's
you could check online. You've got to get the dates.
A virtual Mass now.
If you're
but it's not the same. It's not the same, and I feel I did in the early days when we were all in lockdown. I attended the Easter Mass that was online, and it just didn't feel. You know, you go into a church, you get that sense of awe. You have that feeling, and I just didn't get that from the online experience. For me personally, I'm not speaking for others, but that's the one thing I will miss this year.
Yeah. Well, I want to say before we go any further, I think it was last week. Last week I was at home, working, and my phone rang by someone. I couldn't deal with the answer the call, and then another mate messaged me and said, "Have you heard about Paul Lawrence?" And I said, "No." I know Paul is always controversial and doing something, so always say, "What has Paul said now?" You know. And then another mate from Jamaica called me and said, "Hey, Sid, have you heard what happened to Paul?" So while I'm working and doing a hearing, I started to do a little research, and I saw the passing of Paul Lawrence. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you do not know, Paul Lawrence is a stalwart within the Jamaican community, and Paul passed away last week. Don't know the cause of death yet, and it has shocked a lot of persons in the community as a result of that. And we want to somewhat give our, condolences and tribute to Paul. I mean, I know Keima and Keisha, you have engaged with Paul. I've engaged with Paul, and I do have a tribute. And so any comments you guys want to make regarding Paul?
That's right, Sylbourne. I join with you and everyone else on the panel to send my condolences to the family. You know, it's a great loss, I must say, to the that community as a whole. Sylbourne, I came to know Paul Lawrence through you, actually. And one of the things I admire about him is that he spoke a lot about empowering young Black boys and training them up and just imparting wisdom and knowledge into them. And I was really inspired by that, especially when at one point he wrote this book. It's the 101 Lessons I Taught My Son. And as soon as I heard he published that book, I was one of the, first of the people who was quite, who really wanted to get their hands on a copy of that book. And the reason why is not only because, he wrote it, but also because I've got a young son. And I'm always very much impressed by somebody who will go out their way to encourage other people and to teach other people as to how to raise their child or mentor, young boys, Black boys in particular. And he actually has done that. And I think that he's been, he's a larger than life character in the Black community. And I'm sure, like most, he'll definitely be greatly missed.
Yes. Thanks for that. And who should I go to? Let me just move this picture here. And Keisha.
Yeah. Keima. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so Paul Lawrence, everybody know his, as Keisha mentioned, a larger than life character. I mean, he's be sorely missed. I mean, time to time I go through my timeline and If I don't see his comment, or if he comments, then it's at least something that you listen to, or even open your ears and say, not sure I agree. Sometimes it's he challenged your opinion, challenge your viewpoints to the world. Of course, there's a lot of things that him and I we don't agree with in terms of politically, but he was not afraid to question, why you support Boris, why you support the Conservative, and he will put his thoughts out there. And there's not many people who will be so bold and brave to say and speak up for the community. So he will be sadly missed, and his character is beyond, his personality is beyond. It's all over the timeline. So when his passing was such a shock for everybody. So condolences to him, his family.
And David, I don't know if you had any direct interaction with Paul.
No, I never met him. I'd heard of the projects that he'd been involved in, sort of 100 Black Men of London, and the mentoring aspect that we've heard this evening, the empowerment, the economic engagement, that sort of thing is a testament to the person of interest here that we're talking about him this evening. And all you have to do is hear the outpouring of emotions. People are willing to say nothing but positive things about him that then make you feel that this person was a larger than life character. So Paul Lawrence obviously is in the stars now, and yes, he must rest in peace. And we must celebrate the fact that he achieved so much within the Black community. And this, I think, it's the degree of positivity that is sorely going to be missed here. I think in terms of engaging with young people, and trying to empower them, to trying to move them forward, that's always as a bonus to how you approach a life's journey. And I think obviously he did this, and that should be celebrated.
I can speak for myself with Paul, because Paul and I we have traveled many journeys. We were on the team. I asked him to join the team with the airport passenger duties. We were challenging the airlines in respect of the exorbitant airfares, and we met with the different managers, Virgin, and Paul just said straight to their face. Things that I wouldn't say, Paul said. And,
good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, and also Paul is the type of guy that I invite on different things, events that we go to. We have shared platform on Ben TV. And but one thing I'll say though, I'll never forget this moment, and this was very interesting. We were at this thing at Friend's House. Friend's House is where you have this place in Houston. Al Sharpton was there, Lee Jasper was there, and everybody was there. And Al Sharpton got up and said, "Oh, these conservatives, these Black conservatives." And then I said, Paul eyes.
Turning towards you, right?
Yeah, Paul eyes looking at me, and I share the eyes there. There are the eyes. Those are the eyes there. Paul looking over at me and said, "Sylbourne, Paul hate my politics. I will tell you that clearly." As conservative, but
he hates yours and Keima's definitely, because I could see, I remember.
And he will call it out every time. Either he's got an opinion on something. I wonder what the Black, conservatives would say. And at that point, when he says that, it's just time to stop. You know who you're referring to. You know who you're referring to.
I wonder what Sylbourne was saying, everything, and I just say, let me just stay away. But the common ground that we had was Jamaica. Anything to do with Jamaica, we always cannot see eye to eye there. And I did a tribute. To Paul, and the tribute I did to Paul, let me read it. And while I read it, the pity I didn't have a music to put on there, but I'll read it with one of his image right here, because I believe it's very important that I say this. And let me just find his image. There we are. And what I wrote, I think it was the same day, I wrote, "The light may be dimmed, but it will shine brighter. Tribute to Paul Lawrence, rest in peace. I'm saddened to hear of the passing of community stalwart Paul Lawrence. One was done many a great work within the black community in the UK and the Jamaica diaspora UK. It was a privilege to work with Paul on various campaigns, especially the lobby for reduced airfares, where he did not mince his words in calling out the airlines. He will always say what you won't say, whether you like it or not. While we may differ politically, we still sat on platform together for shared causes. We have had our rumble jumble in the jungle, but respectfully, it was still good to know that there are alternative voices fearlessly going through, irrespective of the repercussion and kickback effect. Without a doubt, he will be sorely missed, but his impact and legacy shall outlive him. Rest in peace, Paul Lawrence. Yeah. So that's my tribute to Paul, and we may pray rest in peace. And guys, one of the things that this is saying to me, irrespective of differences, political ideologies, religious ideology, cultural ideology, it is so important that we find a common denominator. I call it the black element, and we can work together irrespective of what. That's my dream, because sometimes I understand the politics sometimes tear people apart, and we cannot afford for that to happen. Yeah.
And Sylbourne, as I said, we've got more in common, than what tears us apart. So it's like, he was pretty much all for entrepreneurship, mentoring, and it's really his position on the black community, trying to strengthen the black community. I think is ultimately what his goal was, and I think that in itself will unite more people than whatever the differences are.
Yes. Okay. So fantastic. So rest in peace, Paul, and thank we condolences to his family and everything. Okay, so moving on now. At the rate of how things are going, there are going to be many rest in peace as well because of this COVID geezer, this terrorist. David, where are we now? I mean, with COVID, I mean, what's a briefing? Can you guys get some briefing? Give us a fly on the wall briefing as to what comes down to you guys there.
You want the inside scoop?
In layman language. Yeah, in layman
In layman's language. So you may have heard earlier in the week that there was a different variant of the COVID-19. So what we know is that the viruses, they transform, they change, and there was a new strain that developed down south. So this was a new kind of tidbit of information that came out in the press. What we don't know at the present is how aggressive this particular strain is. What we do feel, however, is that the vaccine program is not to be tested by this particular problem at present, but that's going under further sort of scrutiny. So that was one of the things that fell out this week. Obviously, we're also aware that there are increased restrictions that are going to be taking place across the country from the 19th of December. Over 38 million people will be in tier 3, with new places entering obviously over the course of the next couple of days. And that's obviously going to have large impact in the way that people go about their life. But so it's for people to pay attention to that, because obviously it's going to affect them. And shops will be closing earlier, for example, essential shops will be closing earlier. So yeah, be aware of your local guidance, and so keep abreast of what's going on, because you don't want to be caught out, in the middle of trying to get your last bits of Christmas shopping or otherwise. You don't want to get caught out. The last thing, because I always go a rule of 3, the last thing to mention is schools. We're finding that when schools go back after the break, there's going to be, for secondary schools at least, there'll be a small transition period to getting back to school. So you have to obviously be aware of your local schools in regards to secondary schools, but they're going to be utilizing online learning as opposed to getting kids back into the classroom straight away, and that will affect England and Wales. So again, pay attention to what's going on in your school. If they're not closed down at the moment, then obviously seek that assurance that schools will be opening or how they will be opening. The move afoot in England and Wales is to start online teaching, and then transition these secondary school kids. It is secondary school, not primary school at the moment, but that's one of the things that's come out in the recent hours. So people need to be aware of.
Can you explain something? And this is what people have been asking: is new strain of virus, is it the virus is evolving and it's going to be running away from the present vaccine?
No, not in that sense. What we're saying is that that this happens with viruses. Again, not to sort of link it to the flu virus, but we know year after year there's a different strain that's more applicable to the vaccine that's used for the flu virus. So it's kind of the mechanism of determining what strain to particularly use for the vaccination for the flu virus is determined prior to its use every single year. So this is a normal entity. I don't want people to think that, you know, we're going to have anarchy and things are going to change again and we need to think about new vaccines and all the rest of it. That's not what I'm postulating. What I'm saying is that this is what viruses do. Much the same as that we're born, we start walking, we run, and then we die. And that's a transition. The viruses will go from strain to strain. It will change. It will try and evolve. It'll try to sort of find new ways to navigate the system, and that's just a part of the course. So I wouldn't afford to worry. Sorry, go ahead. Go.
Sorry to interject, but just need to clarify this new strain of virus. I'm assuming then the vaccine, the existing vaccine, is sufficient for that new one.
Yeah, that's the thought process at this moment. There's no reason to believe otherwise as of the 17th of December 2020 at 21:24 in the evening. That's the guidance that's being afforded to me. That's the information I can give, and that's what I'd stand to. And there's no reason to believe otherwise.
Yeah.
But the scientists are looking at this very question, and the only way of doing that is running investigations and tests, etc. But from what they see so far, there's nothing to detract from the use of the vaccination.
Yeah, it's been very scary for people who live in East Kent, isn't it? Because I think that's pretty much where the area is, where you've been told a new strain has come about, and it's been a very difficult one because, of course, we all know now that Kent is an area that is in lockdown, and I think we talked tier 3.
Tier 3, just like London now.
Just like London, and we talked about that before because I think a lot of the MPs, of course, had some issues with it because there's only parts of Kent, in particular, that was really showing a very high number of the COVID crisis at and other pockets of it wasn't really showing, but the whole of Kent now is sort of locked down as a result, just like London. So it's interesting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks, but you just don't understand how and why is it happening. I mean, a lot of people are thinking that it's possible because quite recently the hairdressers, for example, was asked, they could open up, and we actually had some more retail stores and the pubs were able to open. So whether we relax the rules a little bit too soon, that might have caused a result of it. But it's still questionable. We'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
What I find very disturbing about the lockdowns, I think David just went for a second. What I find disturbing with the lockdown at times is that as companies open up and as companies are getting going, your hairdressers and all those sort of things, they go back into lockdown. They can feel the frustration which is coming from them. You can feel the anxiety, and they say this creates a lot of mental health factors as well.
But Sylbourne is not only shop owners or entrepreneurs feeling the lockdown. It's people like myself who I personally feel mentally tired.
Yes,
I'm mentally exhausted and frustrated as well because I know I'm ranting about it, but I've actually followed the rules. I follow the rules, and I do not understand why we're still in a position where they're locking down. Again, is it the third or fourth time now they're locking? I mean, I did agree, at the second stage of lockdown, because I think obviously we need to contain the virus. But this is getting to an extreme now where I just don't understand why is it people aren't following the rules.
Okay.
So that people like myself who have been law-abiding citizens in this country for the past God knows how long in this year, for the past few months, could have some sense of freedom. If everybody followed the rules, we'd be all in a better position and a better place. But no, we have a problem right now that some people aren't following the rules, and we're in tier 3 again. Why is that? Why is that?
I think as well, Boris was also because also I think 2 weeks ago when he said, okay, you're going to lower the rules, lessen the rules for Christmas visits, and of course now he was obviously hesitant to backtrack on that, but of course the message is
because he should be backtracking on it. That's my frustration about it, Keima. People like myself, I've been looking forward. This is my trajectory. Okay, I'll follow the roof. By the time we hit Christmas, I can properly have a good celebratory moment and time of my life. But now, because certain people